Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. From this particular video, we'll be starting a new subject, that is Income Tax Law and Practice 2. In the previous semester, that is 5th semester, we have studied about Income Tax Law and Practice 1. We all know that we have totally 5 heads of income. Income from salary, income from house property, income from business and profession, income from capital gains, and income from other sources. In previous semester, that is 5th semester, we studied two heads of income. That is, we have studied income from salary, we have studied, and income from house property. That two head of income we have studied in the 5th semester. In the 6th semester, we'll be learning the other heads of income. In that first chapter is income from business and profession. So whatever the income you are getting from business and profession, how to calculate the taxable income from that. So again, this particular chapter, you can divide it into two parts, part A and part B. Part A is income from business and part B is income from profession. So it is one of the easy chapter, and this chapter has more weightage in your examination because there are many chances that you get two questions in section B. Chances are there. One from taxable income from business or taxable income from profession, or else even section C you may expect two questions from this chapter. So it's one of the easiest chapter and very interesting chapter. So first let us understand what is the meaning of business. What is the meaning of business? So we all know that business is an economic activity. Business is considered as economic activity. So what is economic activity? Any activity which is done with the intention of earning profit is called economic activity. Even we also run the business for getting profit. ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದೊಂದು ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ. ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವ ಒಂದು ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿನ ನಾವು ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ನ ಅರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಅಥವಾ ದುಡ್ಡನ್ನ ಸಂಪಾದಿಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, ಅದನ್ನ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ವಿ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ದಟ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಆಸ್ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ. ಸಿಮಿಲರ್ಲಿ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಅನ್ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ಅರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಇಂಟೆನ್ಷನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಎನಿ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ವಿಚ್ ಇಸ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ಟುವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಮೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್, ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಉದ್ದೇಶದಿಂದ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್. ಸೊ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ಸ್ ಬೈಯಿಂಗ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಸೆಲ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಗೂಡ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಸರ್ವಿಸಸ್. ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ಸ್ ಬೈಯಿಂಗ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಸೆಲ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ goods and services, which is usually we call it as trade. Buying and selling of goods and services, we call it as trade. So this is the meaning of business. About the meaning of profession, I will tell you when I come to taxable income from profession. Now, how to compute this taxable income from business? So in order to calculate the taxable income from business, we need to consider four important items. ನಾಲ್ಕು important items ಗಳನ್ನ ನಾವು ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. The four important items are admissible expenses, ಅಥವಾ ಅದನ್ನ ಅಲೋವಬಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕೂಡ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಐಟಮ್ ಇಸ್ ಅಡ್ಮಿಸಿಬಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಆರ್ ಅಲೋವಬಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್. ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ಇನ್ಅಡ್ಮಿಸಿಬಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಅಲೋವಬಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್. ಎರಡನೇ ಐಟಮ್ ಬಂದು ಇನ್ಅಡ್ಮಿಸಿಬಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ನಾಟ್ ಅಲೋವಬಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ನಾವು ತೋರ್ಸಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. According to the income tax IT rules, we cannot treat that as an expenses. Okay. Or the third one is business income. Business income. The third one is business income. So what is this? Business income is any income arising from the main activity of the business. ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ನ ಒಂದು ಮೇನ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿಯಿಂದ ಬರುವಂತ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಫೋರ್ತ್ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾನ್ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್. ನಾನ್ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್. ಸೊ ಎನಿ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ವಿಚ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ. ನಾಟ್ ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ. ಆ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ನಾನ್ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ಗೆ ರಿಲೇಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್, ಮತ್ತೆ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ಗೆ ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ನ ಅಡ್ಮಿಸಿಬಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಯಾವ ಯಾವ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ಗೆ ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟಿರಲ್ಲ, ಮೇನ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ದ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್, ಅದನ್ನ ಇನ್ಅಡ್ಮಿಸಿಬಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಅ ಬಿಗ್ ಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಅಡ್ಮಿಸಿಬಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಇನ್ಅಡ್ಮಿಸಿಬಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್. ಲೆಟ್ ಅಸ್ ಸಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿನಿ ಅಡ್ಮಿಸಿಬಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಅಂತ ಯಾವ್ದಾವ್ದನ್ನ ಟ್ರೀಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲಾನು ಕೂಡ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಆದ್ರೆ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ ನಾನು ಹೈಲೈಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಯೂಶಲಿ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ರೀತಿಯ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಈಸಿ ಆಗ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕೆಲವೊಂದನ್ನ ನಾನು ಹೈಲೈಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಸೊ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅಡ್ಮಿಸಿಬಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್? ದ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಇನ್ಕರ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ ರನ್ನಿಂಗ್ ದ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್. ಒಂದು ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ನ ರನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಏನೇನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೋ those are called as admissible expenses. And earning the income and profits are admissible, isn't it? So when we are running the day-to-day business, day-to-day operations, when we are doing in a business, of course certain expenses will be incurred. We will be incurring certain expenses. So those expenses are admissible. So these expenses can be deducted from business income. ಈ ರೀತಿಯ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ನ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಇಂದ ಡಿಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಮೈನಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗಲೇ ನಮಗೆ ನೆಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆರ್ ಡೆಬಿಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಪಿ ಅಂಡ್ ಎಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್. ಸೊ ಪಿ ಅಂಡ್ ಎಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡೆಬಿಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನರ್ಥ? ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ. ಇಫ್ ದ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಡೆಬಿಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಪಿ ಅಂಡ್ ಎಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್, then it decreases our income. It decreases the business income. So ಪಿ ಅಂಡ್ ಎಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡೆಬಿಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನರ್ಥ? ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ. So these are the list of certain admissible expenses. First one is repairs and renewal of business premises. For example, ನಾವೇನಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಪ್ರಿಮೈಸಸ್ ನ ಲೀಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತಗೊಂಡು ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ನ ರನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದರ ಲೀಸ್ ರಿನಿವಲ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರಬೇಕು ಅಥವಾ ರಿಪೇರ್ಸ್ ಗಳು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಆ ರಿಪೇರ್ಸ್ ಗಳು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗೋದು. ನಾವು ಲೀಸ್ ನ ರಿನ್ಯೂವಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ನಡೆಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಲೀಸ್ ರಿನ್ಯೂವಲ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಪರ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಇರಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ರಿಪೇರ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ರಿನ್ಯೂವಲ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ admissible expenses. So in question this item may appear. So repairs and renewals are considered as admissible expenses because in order to run a business we require a premises. Whatever the repairs and renewals of that premises is a necessary part. So without that renewals we cannot run the business properly and we will be not able to earn any profit. So it is mainly related to our business activity. Next is rent, rates and taxes. So of course when we are running a business, so we need to pay the rent if we are taking the rented building, or rates and taxes, we need to pay certain taxes. For example, GST sales tax we have to pay, isn't it? So all those taxes come into the main core of the business. So it is related to the main business activity. So it is considered as admissible expenses. Insurance charges paid for building and goods of the business. This also will come. For example, fire insurance anta tagondirtare. Fire insurance, so whatever the goods you have produced in the organization, there should be certain security. Suppose if any fire attack happens, you need to recover the loss. In such a situation, you would have taken the fire insurance. So those fire insurance for building or goods, that is allowable. ಸೊ ಒಂದು ಗೂಡ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಫೈರ್ ಇನ್ಶೂರೆನ್ಸ್ ನ ತಗೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀರಾ, ಅದು ಅಲೋವೆಬಲ್, ಅದನ್ನ ಅಲೋ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಬ್ಯಾಡ್ ಡೆಟ್ಸ್ ಇಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್, ಸೊ ಯು ವುಡ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಗಿವನ್ ಅ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಟು ಯುವರ್ ಕಸ್ಟಮರ್ and the customer will not pay you that, so you won't get that money at all. So you have lost that money, whatever you should have got. So that is a bad debts. Bad debts is also an admissible expenses. Bad debts ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಕಸ್ಟಮರ್ಗೆ ನೀವು ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತೀರಾ, ಸಾಲದ ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿ ಗೂಡ್ಸ್ ನ ಮಾರಿರ್ತೀರಾ, ಅವರು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟು ದಿನ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಅವರು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರಲ್ಲ, ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಆ ದುಡ್ಡು ಬಂದಿರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಯು. So bad debts is an admissible expenses. Depreciation under section 32. I have already put the videos regarding depreciation under section 32. So what is that? how to charge a depreciation. I've already explained the theory. You can watch in my playlist. Problems also I'll be starting on that very shortly. So depreciation under section 32. For example, you would have charged 50,000 as depreciation, but according to under section 32, allowable depreciation is 30,000. So this is an example. Okay, then 20,000 will be inadmissible. For example, is the example I'm giving you an example to make you understand. So according to the business, you would have charged 50,000 as a depreciation. But IT rule says that according to section 32, the allowable depreciation is only 30,000. Means income department tells you that you cannot charge 50,000 depreciation. You are only allowed to charge 30,000 as depreciation. So the remaining 20,000, how we got this 20,000? 50,000 minus 30,000 will be considered as inadmissible. So whatever the IT rule says, according to that, if you have charged depreciation, then it is admissible. For example, if you have charged excess depreciation, that excess amount will be inadmissible. Clear? Next, expenditure on scientific research. It's also a big this and comes under section 35. As and how we see the problem, I will explain you what is that. Next, contribution for rural development program. This also they usually don't ask, but I'll tell you. So if any contribution you have done for the rural development program, so whatever the amount you have contributed, the 100% full contribution will be given deduction. So you can take it as admissible expenses. Next, group insurance premium paid for employees and premium on key man insurance. Means suppose there are uh, some factory workers are there, so you would have taken a group insurance. So many of the organizations offer insurance plans for their employees. So in such case, if you have taken a group insurance for employees, that is admissible. For example, if you, but life insurance is inadmissible. Group insurance ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದು admissible. Life insurance ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗೆ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋದು, ಅದು personal, ಅದು that is not given as the allowed deduction. But group insurance, whatever you have paid, that is admissible. You can show it as an expense. But life insurance, you cannot show it as a expense. Robbery and dacoity. So any theft, you have lost certain goods or services as a theft, then it is admissible. Next, embezzlement of cash. Embezzlement is nothing but misappropriation. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸಪೋಸ್ 100 rupees ಇರ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಆದ್ರೆ 100 rupees ಇಲ್ಲ, ಬರೀ 50 rupees ಇದೆ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮಿಸ್ಅಪ್ರಾಪ್ರಿಯೇಷನ್. ಮಿಕ್ಕಿದ 50 rupees ಕಳ್ತನ ಆಗಿದೆಯೋ ಅಥವಾ ಯಾರು ಎತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಲಾಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್. ಸೊ such embezzlement of cash is also given as allowable expense. Employer's contribution to RPF. So in income tax law and practice 1, okay, you would have learned the head of income from salary. In that you have a separate concept called provident fund. In that RPF is recognized provident fund. Recognized and a word is very important. So if the employer is contributing to the recognized provident fund, then that is given as a admissible expense. That can be treated as admissible expenses only when the contribution is made to recognized provident fund. Recognized provident fund ಗೆ ಏನಾದರೂ ಕಾಂಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಆಗಷ್ಟೇ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಅಲೋವೆಬಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. Next, establishment expenses. So you are establishing a new unit in your organization. Of course, for that certain expenses you incur. So and that is also considered as allowable expenses. Bonus or commission paid, okay, to employees. So for your employees, if you are paying any bonus or commission, so that can also be considered as admissible expenses. Next, interest on loan paid if loan is for business purpose. This word is very important. ಲೋನನ್ನ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಪರ್ಪಸ್ಗೆ ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ರೆ ಆ ಲೋನಿಗೆ ನೀವು ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ನ ಕಟ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಿ considered as admissible expenses. If you have taken any amount of loan to run the business and you are paying certain amount of interest for whatever the loan you have taken, that is also considered as admissible expenses. General business expenses. So in running a business, you will have certain petty expenses, okay, like refreshment charges or food charges, lunch charges. So some petty general business expenses you will have that can also be considered as an admissible expenses. Gifts and presents given not in personal capacity. So gifts given but not in personal capacity means for the business purpose. And sometimes what happened is you have given a gift to your employees. So gift ನಿಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯೀಸ್ಗೆ ಗಿಫ್ಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತೀರಾ, ಅದನ್ನ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅಡ್ಮಿಸಿಬಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಆಗಿ ತಗೊಳ್ಬೋದು. ಪರ್ಸನಲ್ ಆಗಿ in question they would have given gift given to daughter, gift given to wife. So all those things cannot be considered. Any gifts given which is not in the personal capacity, so it is not given as a part of personal relation, then it can be considered as admissible expenses. Income tax expenses under, you should not get confused here. Income tax paid, advance income tax ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೆ admissible ಕೊಡಲ್ಲ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ರಿಟರ್ನ್ಸ್ ನ ಫೈಲ್ ಮಾಡೋಕೆ ಆಗುವಂತಹ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಆರ್ ಐ ಟಿ ಅಪೀಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್. ಸೊ ನೀವು ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಅಪೀಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಖರ್ಚಾಗಿರೋದಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಐ ಟಿ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಡಿಂಗ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಗಳಾಗಿದ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅದನ್ನ ಅಡ್ಮಿಸಿಬಲ್ ಅಂತ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಕಟ್ಟಿರೋದನ್ನ ನಾವು ವಿ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ admissible expenses because we are computing this taxable income from business only to pay the income tax. So some people will do income tax paid because they want to show less income so that they can pay less tax. So for that reason, we don't consider income tax paid as admissible expenses, but we considered any expenses related to IT appeal or IT proceedings that can be considered as allowable expenses. Postage and telegram, printing and stationery, professional tax paid. So any professional tax if you have paid, that also is given as admissible expenses. Railway freight and octroi, these are all the traveling expenses. It comes under traveling expenses. Next, subscriptions to trade and professional journals. So any magazines, business magazines or business journals, if you have subscribed, so that subscription fees is also considered as admissible expenses. Salaries, wages, perquisites paid to employee. So any remuneration if you are given to your employee, that will be considered as admissible expenses. Establishment expenses. So as I told you that any new department if you're establishing or any new unit you're establishing, that is one type. Second type is establishment department. If you're establishing, it is a department where you maintain the records of the organization. So for that, any expenses whatever you incur for establishing, that is also considered as admissible. Traveling expenses related to business. So for business purpose, sometimes you may have to travel to another place or your client vendor's place. So those traveling expenses also can be considered as admissible. Training expenses. So if you are training your employees, okay, so those training charges can be considered as admissible expenses. Welfare expenses of staff, very very important. Staff welfare expenses will be considered. Now let us, okay, still more is there. Puja expenses. Suppose you want to celebrate Diwali, Dasara and all in your office. So those puja expenses is also considered as admissible expenses. Compensation to the retrenched employee in the interest of the firm. So sometimes what happened is the employees of the organization. So what is compensation is you pay them something, okay? That is compensation. It is an expense. Retrenched. Retrenched means suppose what happened is if there is if there are excess staff in an organization, like more employees are there, So what you do, you try to uh, remove some employees. Suppose there are many 5 employees, but you require only 2 employees. So the other 3 employees you need to send them home. So what happened? You cut the expenses of the employee. So if you just send them suddenly, so that is not fair enough. So you pay some amount as a compensation because you are terminating the employment. So that compensation is also considered as admissible expenses. Discount allowed. So if you're dealing with the goods and services business, then for your customers you would have given certain amount of discount, which is an expense for the business, that can be considered as admissible expenses. Guest house and holiday home expenses. I mean, suppose some VIP foreign delegates are coming to your organizations for certain meetings. You book a get the guest house or holiday homes for them. So those expenses can be considered as admissible expenses. Next is legal expenses incurred to avoid business liability and defend assessee's title of the business. So business liability. So sometimes if there are any court proceedings, someone has put a case against your business. So you want to go and reach out to the lawyer, you want some person to argue against you in the court. So or any legal expenses, such legal expenses will be considered as admissible expenses. Now let us look into the inadmissible expenses. So these expenses are not allowed under the IT Act. Income Tax Act ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಇದನ್ನ ನೀವು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಇಂದ ಡಿಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಹಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಈಗ ನಾನು ಯಾವ್ದಾರು ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಲ್ಲ ಅದನ್ನ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಅಂತ ತೋರ್ಸಂಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ನೀವು ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಹಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಒಂದು ವೇಳೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಡಿಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ P&L ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡೆಬಿಟ್ ಆಗೋಗಿದ್ರೆ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಆಡ್ ಇಟ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್. ಅದನ್ನ ವಾಪಸ್ ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ನೀವು ತೋರ್ಸೋಂಗಿರಲ್ಲ. ನೀವು ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಡಿಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಅದನ್ನ ವಾಪಸ್ ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಕೂಡ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. So these expenses are not allowed under the IT Act, and you should not deduct those expenses from the gross profit. If you have deducted it, then you should add back to your net profits. So if it is debited in the P&L account, again you have to add it back. So let us see some of the inadmissible expenses. First one is personal expenses. Any expenses related to the personal, like marriage expenses or any drawings. LIC premium, as I told you that life insurance premium is related to a person's life insurance it is. So that is not allowed. Medical insurance is not allowed, but group insurance you allow. Medical insurance you don't allow. Premium, medical insurance premium of proprietor, very important. Proprietor is the owner of the business. His medical insurance he should pay from his pocket. He should not pay it using business money. So you don't allow it. Salary to owner. You always know that owner doesn't get a salary in the business. Owner will only enjoy the profits of the business. If any salary is given to owner means that means he's trying to take more money from the business in order to show the less income for the business. So income tax doesn't allow salary to the owner. Rent of own building means it's your own building and you take rent out of it. So this is to just show your less income so that you pay less tax. So all these income tax people doesn't allow you to show it as an expenses. Savings made in national savings scheme. So any national savings scheme, if you have made certain savings, again that cannot be showed as a expenses here. Household expenses, any expenses related to house property, it is not taxed under income from business head at all. Direct taxes like income tax, advance tax, and wealth tax. So wealth tax is not there now, so ignore it. Wealth tax ಅನ್ನೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ignore ಮಾಡಿ ಅದನ್ನ. So income tax or advance tax, some people will pay advance tax because to show less income. So income tax and advance tax, we don't give it as an expenses because we are calculating this to find out the taxable income. On that you have to pay the income tax. So we don't allow it as a deduction here. Provisions for bad debts. Any provisions. Provision is you set aside some money. So provision for tax or provision for bad debts or provision for future losses. Any provision. Provisions only we don't give as a admissible. It is inadmissible expenses. Capital losses. Any capital loss, like you have sold an asset and you incur a loss, that is a capital loss that comes under different head of income, so you don't show it here. Charities and donations. So if you are interested to give a charity or donation, then you have to give it after paying tax. So for the purpose of computation of tax, we don't allow you. If you have paid the charity and donation, that is your wish, business wish. But income tax doesn't give admissible deduction on this. So it is an inadmissible expenses. Charities and donation. If you want, you give charity and donations, but after paying tax. That is what IT Act says. Capital expenditure. So purchase of asset or construction or extension of building. This is these are all the capital expenditure. So any capital expenditure is there, that is inadmissible. Cost of signboards. So some in near your office locality and all, they would have put some neon boards or signboards. So they're not like a fancy things. So if you want that and all, you should do it from the business money. So you cannot show all those expenses and bring down your total net income. So that is an inadmissible expenses. Contribution to staff welfare fund. So stars in a company they create a staff welfare fund. So that is again it's a kind of provision that an organization maintain. So that cannot be treated as admissible expenses. So it is an inadmissible expenses. Contribution to political party. So you are supporting any of the political party, you are making certain contributions to them. That is also an inadmissible expenses. Differences in trial balance. So the asset side and the liabilities, sorry, debit and credit side of the trial balance doesn't tally. Then some difference amount comes, that you cannot show it as an expenses. That is inadmissible. Speculation losses. You have invested some amount and you don't get a proper, you have undergone loss. So that cannot be shown as inadmissible expenses. Interest on capital. So any interest on capital is paid. For this usually comes under partnership. So if interest on capital is paid, that is not allowed. Interest on capital or interest drawings, nothing we allow. Contribution to URPF. URPF is unrecognized provident fund. So in admissible expenses, if the employer has contributed to recognize the provident fund, then it is admissible. If you contribute to unrecognized provident fund, then it is inadmissible in nature. Expenses related to other heads of income. So if any expenses is there, like income from house property is there, or income from capital gains, income from other sources. So all other head of incomes, you don't consider it over here. Over and excess depreciation charge. I've explained you already this with an example. Fine and penalties paid on excise and customs. So customs you have, excise is not there now. So let us take it as GST. So you would have not done the filing on time. So you would have paid certain penalty for that. All penalty, all fines is not entertained. So it is not considered as admissible expenses. Next, fringe benefit expenses. So again, this fringe benefit expenses, it comes under, you would have studied this under income from salary. So what is this fringe benefit? It's like any form of long-term incentives or non-monetary compensation that is given to an employee. So it comes under other, usually it comes under income from salary only, but here we don't consider this fringe benefits. It is like an additional benefit. Next is gifts and presents not related to business. So you have given, as I told you, gift to your wife, gift to the spouse, gift to children, all those things. illegal expenses. Illegal expenses also, it is illegal. The name itself says, so the law doesn't, IT law doesn't allow it. Okay. Next, loss on yeah, loss on discontinued business. So suppose if any of okay, like you have many businesses, so any of the one business you're discontinuing it, and whatever the loss you incur from discontinuing such a business cannot be claimed as an admissible. It is an inadmissible expenses. Patents or copyrights acquired, it is again a capital expenditure, and you don't given any exemption or deduction for capital expenditure. Theft at assessee's residence. So business ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಳ್ತನ ಆದ್ರೆ you give it as an exemption, but if it is in the employee assessee's residence, so in the owner's residence, if a theft has happened, then we don't consider it as admissible. If the same theft has happened in the business, then it can be considered as admissible expenses. If the same uh, if the same theft has happened in associate residence, then it is considered as inadmissible expenses. Preliminary expenses written off. Again, about preliminary expenses, when the problem comes, I will explain it to you. Next, let us move on to the third concept, that is business income. So what is this business income? So these are the income which you will consider for the purpose of calculation of tax. So this income, it should be added to the profit. So ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ನ ನಾವು ಈ ಒಂದು ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ನ ನಾವು ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ನ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಈ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ಗೆ ಆಡ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಆ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ಸ್ ಗೆ ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. Let us see some of the example. Bad debts recovered earlier allowed. So what happens? Bad debts you are recovering. So your customer, you thought that your customer will not pay the money, but customer is so generous that he has paid you the money. So whatever the amount you have recovered, that will be again, it will be from the sales what you have done. So that is a business income. Sales or commission received or discount received, all this is considered as business income. Interest from debtors for delayed payment. Suppose your customer doesn't give you money on time, so you put a penalty for them and they pay extra money. That extra money is also your business income. Refund of custom duty allowed as deduction earlier. Means earlier you would have taken a deduction. ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಹಿಂದೆ ನೀವು ಕಸ್ಟಮ್ ಡ್ಯೂಟಿನ ಪೇ ಮಾಡಿರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಡಿಡಕ್ಷನ್ ತಗೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀರಾ, ಬಟ್ ನೀವು ಪೇ ಮಾಡಿರೋದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ರೀಫಂಡ್ ಬಂದಿರುತ್ತೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ. ಸೊ ರೀಫಂಡ್ ಬಂದಿರೋ ಕಾರಣ ನೀವು ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಡಿಡಕ್ಷನ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀರಾ, ಬಟ್ ಈಗ ಅದು ವಾಪಸ್ ಕೂಡ ಬಂದಿದೆ, ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಆಡ್ ಇಟ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅನ್ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್. Next, export incentive. So this usually they don't ask in the question, so ignore it. Amount foregone by creditors means it is kind of discount only. Means your creditors, your vendors will say that okay, remaining you have to pay 1 lakh rupees, just pay 1 lakh and just don't pay 50,000. So that is the amount foregone. They do certain sacrifice, that is again income for your business. Rent received from employees means you would have given your business property on rent to employees, like employee quarters, where they don't pay you full rent, but some amount they will pay you as the rent. So we'll give it to them in a nominal amount. So such any rent if it is received, that is considered as business income. Next, you have something called as non-business income. So which is not related to the main activity of the business. So that is not your main activity. ಅದು ನಿಮ್ಮ main business ಆಗಿರಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ಆದ್ರೂ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಅದರ್ ಸೋರ್ಸಸ್ ಇಂದ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ನೀವಿಲ್ಲೋ ಎಫ್ ಡಿ ಇಟ್ಟಿರ್ತೀರಾ, ಅದರಿಂದ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಬಂದಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಅದು ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ನಿಮ್ ಮೇನ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಅಲ್ಲ ಅದು. ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ these are considered as non-business income. ಸೊ ಇಫ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಪಿ ಅಂಡ್ ಎಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ನೆಟ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ಗೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಇದನ್ನ ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನ ಡಿಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇಫ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟೆಡ್ ಟು ದ ಪಿ ಅಂಡ್ ಎಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್, ಇಟ್ ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಬಿ ಡಿಡಕ್ಟೆಡ್. ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್? So what are the list of, I have the exclusive list of non-business income. So first one is interest on securities. So any investment you have made and you're getting interest, that is not your business income. Agricultural income. So this agricultural income is a tax-free income. So as you know that in the income tax one, the first this you just learn to solve the problems on classifying the income as agricultural or non-agricultural income. So you know that the agricultural income is exempted income. So there is no tax. It is a tax-free income. So rent received or income received from house property is a non-business income. Any investments or fixed assets you have sold, again that is not your main business activity, so it is a non-business income. Dividend received, same. Interest on deposits, mutual funds, anything that is not your main business, so it is inadmissible. Gifts received from relatives, so if your relatives is giving gift, it is nowhere concerned with your business, so it is a non-business income. Share of income from HUF, Hindu undivided family. So again this is a tax-free income, so you all know that. So you have certain list of exempted income which you have studied in the income tax law and practice one. Any income you're getting from Hindu undivided family, that is considered as tax-free income. So winning from lottery or crosswords puzzles, that is nowhere related to your business. Interest on post office savings bank account. You know that up to 3,500 you have an exemption for individual, and if it is a joint account, 7,000 is the exemption. So whatever the interest is there on post office savings bank account, that you cannot claim as business income. Bad debts recovered but not allowed earlier. Means before you wouldn't have shown it as a bad debts, but now you have got the amount. So it is an non-business income. Dividend from Indian company. It is an exempted dividend from any dividend you are receiving from Indian company, any Indian or foreign company, that is not your main business activity. So it is a non-business income. Income tax refund. Income tax we are not considering as expense. Similarly, any refund is also, it is not related to business. We treat it as refund from LIC. It is related to individual, not related to business. Withdrawal of PPF. PPF is Public Provident Fund. So if any amount, if you have withdrawn, that amount is also considered as non-business income. So this is how the four things we have learned. What is business income, non-business income, admissible expenses, and inadmissible expenses. So all these things, based upon these things, we will start to solve the problem for from the next video. So while once we start solving the problem, you will have the better understanding about all these things. Thank you for watching the video. I'll come back with the next video.